is up, brother? Most High. Welcome back to my channel, High Velocity. My name is Ever. Thanks for tuning in again. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And if it's nighttime, I hope you're having a wonderful night. Mark, you might be in the night. Alright, brother. Check it out. Look, listen. I'm gonna need you to not panic when you know what these are. Okay? These are Manics. And don't worry, they're sedated right now. They're asleep. I had to tranquilize them with the rhinoceros tranquilizer, brother, because the horse tranquilizer was not enough. Okay, so listen. I am going to reintroduce my Manics. Y'all know what a Manic is, a Schumacher Manic 36 twin. And let me just tell you, what a beautiful machine. What a beautiful machine it is. Yes, indeed. But look, listen. Since there's already a beautiful machine, I had to make it even more beautiful, where it kind of looks ugly. But everything fast is ugly and mean and beastie. You know what I mean? Aggressive. Being aggressive. So I had to turn my Manic, the other one that I had, more aggressive. So check it out. I'm going to go over a couple things. You know, this Manic, I already had it for a while. I did debut it long time ago through my journey in this YouTube mission. Not mission, but more like journey. Yeah, there you go. This 36 twin made by Schumacher. If you didn't know, it comes with twins. Two 18s. And I believe they're the R18s. Or I might be mistaken, the X18. I should have done my research. But look, I'm not here to let you guys know about their backgrounds, their history, you know. All that for me is not a thing that I do, you know. I might get to it soon. You know, it might be vital. But other than that, Pimp is doing a great job for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Pimp. Pimp, you the man, brother. This is the original Manic twin body. And it comes in different colors, but with the same paint scheme, the same design. Just instead of red, you'll get a yellow one. And I do have a yellow one. But over here, I have a .46. You know what I'm saying? A .46. Yes, on this Manic twin. So let me just tell you how I acquired this thing, you know? When I got this, it was already ran. Just the engines were ran on a tabletop, I guess, I assume. You know, because there were no marks of these tires being on the ground. Or even trying to travel in the ground, right? But over here, this one, I got lucky with this one right here. This Manic, I also got it on eBay. And it was on an auction. And the most amazing thing, well, I wouldn't call it amazing, but I got lucky. I can say I got lucky, but luck is just something you don't know how you got there to acquire, you know? It's really a mystery that can be solved. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you what, Lady Luck does not exist. How can I say this? Like, your actions lead you to a point in life, right? And a lot of times that you're not aware of your actions, and you end up in a point in life where you're like, whoa, how did I get here? You're going to call it luck. And that's what luck is. It's when you're unaware of how you got to a place that you're so happy to be there. You know? So this, from all my researching and looking and observing and paying attention and watching and just pending for another one to come by, all the hard work and time that I put just spending on my phone, looking and searching for parts and this and that, right? Etc. and whatnot. I ended up finding this one. And it was in an auction, brother. I got so lucky. I ended up paying $25 plus shipping, which was less than $40. That is. Would not know how much this is exactly, but it was about $500. You know what I mean? When it came out, this Manic, a brand new 36 twin inbox, you know, was about $500. No more. I mean, I'm not including the taxes, right? But this one, it was just everything I needed. It came with aluminum arms, and it came with a plain body, belly. I'm gonna call it belly, right? Because this whole chassis in between, when everything is together, it's called the body, right? And then it embodies this. But we all know this is the body, right? But like I'm saying, this Manic wasn't so expensive, but I did pay twice the price, right? Almost twice the price, which I don't complain, brother, you know, because now I have one. And I wasn't around back then, you know what I mean? I was into other things that were destroying my life. You know what I mean? Don't want to acknowledge what it is, but you know, and you might have a good idea about it. But look, listen, this 36 twin, if you now have heard it, how it sounds, it just sounds unique, amazing, different, and just handles pretty cool, you know, because look, they say this is a truggy, a muggy, and a buggy. It doesn't even have a classified platform or whatever name it is, right? Can't call it a monster truck, but it does have monster truck wheels. I mean, don't know what they were trying to synthesize here or hybridize. You know what I mean? Shout out to hybrid, but you know, don't know if they put the monster truck and then a truggy together. I'm thinking more this is like a mini muggy, right? A mini muggy, because it's not that big. It's a 10 scale. So anything that comes from a large scale and it's reduced to a smaller scale, it's always called a mini, right? And this is not so small, but let's just call it a mini muggy, right? Let's all agree with that. If you can, if not, that's okay. That's okay. Put these over here. Why am I covering it? Oh yeah, because I wanted to show you how cool it looks. Look at this. But anyway, I will show you up close in a bit. Let me just let you know a little bit of what I need to say about this, and then we can go on. But okay, y'all already saw it with the body on. I'm not gonna put it back on. The Manic has a belt drive that powers on only the front wheels, right? Well, not really, not exactly, because it has 3 belt drives. It has 2 differentials, one in the front and one in the rear, that are similar to the XTR and the Rascal. You know what I'm saying? And then you have a really long belt, you know, powering up the 4-wheel drive. And then plus, it's a single speed, and this gear, I believe it's a 24 DP size. Pretty large. Look how much spacious the gears are. This is not a Mod 1. Also, one of the things that this does is that it only uses 1 carburetor and 1 exhaust pipe for these 2 engines, which are also synchronized with the belt drive. Yes, they are synchronized. And what is synchronization is that they are both running in time, like a timing belt, right? They cannot run by themselves, otherwise they will shut themselves off because of the pulses. You know, the frequency of that pulse needs to alternate. You know, you cannot have them both running together at the same or radically like a traditional twin engine, right? And it also shares like the same cylinder head. They didn't bother to cut it. You know what I'm saying? It's very similar to the R18 cylinder head, but I'll move on with that. Battery box goes in the back. Also, the exhaust pipe, if you can see, it's a huge muffler. You know what I mean? But it doesn't come with this. You see this? I put that, like, I don't remember where I got it from. I think I got it from, oh yeah, eBay, on the parts slot. But it had I've seen a pipe like this before. It has like a 90, like a crazy, you call it 15-degree turn. You know, it's like a triangle. And it has a 150cc, if I'm not mistaken, fuel tank, or 175, but it's pretty big. and it's enough fuel. This thing has pretty good run time. It's like not short of a runner. You know, you can have a blast with it. I've had a blast with it a lot. What else can I say about this? Well, not much. I think that's it, you know. It's not much different than your typical truggy. You know, flat chassis. You have a radio box in between that's really, really hard to get to. Like, in order to get that out, you have to, like, get a bunch of stuff out of the way. Like, loosen up the screws so you can make room and move up the top plate. The clutch bell. The clutch bell is enormous, brother. It does have a chassis brace. A little brace that goes from here to there. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm going to let you know about this chassis brace right there. Also known, well, I also try to purpose it as a torsion bar. You know, I look at it as a torsion bar plus chassis brace. The carburetor is not any bigger or smaller than anything. It's like a traditional big block. The batteries go in the back, and then you have a big old extension lead that goes all the way to the front to the radio box. If you ever come across one of these, you know, the biggest problem is that a lot of people that buy them don't know what it actually has to sound like. And I've seen two out there in Facebook groups that they have posted, and it did not sound like both engines were running. And the biggest problem is that you can have a lot of parasitic loss, because even though one of them could be very low in compression, and that would be if the pistons happens to be scored from debris going inside the engine, right? It could ruin one. Say there's a little grain of salt or something that goes just in one side. It's going to ruin one engine, but it's still going to run. But it's just going to ruin it, right? Because when one of them turns off, it will still keep running. And you can still run it, but it's going to struggle. And you're just going to mess it up. What could mess up? I mean, it's not really going to mess up anything. It's just not going to have any power, right? That one's that. And this is the 36 twin. You can probably find one, but they're going to be really, really expensive and really, really broken. I have so much care for these things that I would not start this without heating it up properly. And when they told me, like when I bought it, I should have thought about it twice, because I could have had an opportunity to buy a brand new one, never opened or ran. But the previous owner, the person I bought it from, he told me he started it twice. And I don't remember if I asked him if he heated it up. And then plus, could I have trusted him? They heated it up? I don't know, brother. That's very concerning. But I'll tell you what. I have not opened it and taken out the piston and sleeve so I can check the compression and what it looks like. Only when I took off the cylinder head and checked the inside, right? Made sure that there was no scoring and no scratches, deep scratches, right? And it was good. It was good. Surprisingly good. But I would prefer if it was untouched or unfueled, you know? But okay, it is what it is, brother. I'm not gonna complain. It's here. It became me, and that's it. So that's that. We have the 36 Manic. Let me put this aside, because on today's video, it's not about this 36 twin. I just wanted to show you so you can know what it looks like. For the new ones, for my new subscribers, this year, thank you, and it's practically the reason why, you know, I'm going to show this one. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And now, let me make room for this one so I can show you everything in here. Just to let you know, I'm not going to run it today. I am not going to run it. But I will tell you everything I did to it, okay? So when I got this, all I had was the chassis plate, the arms, the suspension, No shocks. Oh yeah, I did have shocks, but one of them was broken. And what I did, well, I did this. Check it out. Well, that's that. Yeah. Okay, now let's go with what I did. So I'm going to start from the outside in. And what you're looking at is my personal custom Manic 46 twin. Now the whole idea when I got this Manic, I really wanted to put a 36 single engine, but I couldn't find one. You know, just to compete with that 36. Oh, wait. You know, how could you not want a 36 Manic twin and a 36 Manic single engine? You know what I'm saying? But here we go. So first thing I did when I got this, I tossed in that 46. I had to figure out how to put it in there without the proper engine mounts. And what I did was I grabbed the Savage mounts and I split it open in half in between. That way I can spread it out more because the crankcase is a little bit bigger than your traditional 36, right? So got the engine mounts, and then I also made carbon fiber. I cut out some carbon fiber so I can make standoffs, right? So I can rise the engine higher because it was just not enough. You know, those big block engines aren't that high from the mounting position. You know, and this one is. And then after that, with the engine in place for the exhaust system, I just grabbed a regular huge. They're not that huge from the exhaust port, but you do have to put a different type of silicone boot, you know, for the exhaust to seal with the header. And I routed it this way. I wanted to route it this other direction, but it was just going to get in the way over here. So routed this direction, and then this is the Kyosho exhaust pipe. And these pipes, you can open them. Check it out. And what I did, I opened it. I saw that there's a cone in there because it's dual chambered, luckily. And I opened up that chamber. You know, I made the cone a little bit bigger from the end. And all you have to do is just reduce the size so it can be wider, you know, from the end tip. So I opened it up, and then I also bored out the port right here as much as I could, as thin as I could. I'm not going to pull it out, but it is bigger from the inside, and all I had to do was use the right drill bit, you know, pretty big drill bit. That way I can open it up more. Enough where it's not going to just break it off. You know what I mean? It's really thin. The walls in there are pretty thin. So, and that turned out to work awesome. I mean, it could have worked fine without me doing all that. But hey, look, listen. I just thought, you know, it would be adequate and proper. And it was going to help the engine breathe a lot better, right? Because we're dealing with the 46. So, got the engine, I got the pipe and header, and then now the gearing. So if you can see, I had to grind down my flywheel. That way it doesn't interfere with the diff in the back, because I could not put a regular one. You know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. Also, I had to delete the rear disc brakes. I mean, don't really need them, because this was speed running purpose. You know, it was just for me to make a Manic faster, right? And the Manic 36 Twin, when you buy one, you can also find option gearings, you know. You can find a bigger pinion for that clutch bell, which is only 2 teeth up. And that's it. 2 teeth. What'd that give you? Like 1 mile an hour more, probably? But hey, whatever. But look, this is what I did to get this 56 mile an hour, 55 or 54. I cannot recall exactly, but it's above 50. And all I had to do was just convert it back to mod 1. Well, it was never mod 1. What am I saying? You know, the other one has a 24 DP and this one has an actual mod 1. And what I did, I put I believe a 45 tooth or 50 tooth pinion, 5mm pinion, and a clutch bell from a Savage. And everything worked out well. Now, since I did not have a radio box, I'm using a Tamiya radio box. And yes, these are 40 kilos. Shout out to Tupac, brother, because now we got 80 kilos all together. So, high voltage, LiPo powered, because this does come with a 4-banger. And then also 7.2 volts, not 8.4, just 7.2, brother. But look, it turns, it works fantastic. And you can see I was lucky that I didn't have to I don't like it when carburetors are sideways. Makes it look wrong. You know, I like those 90-degree angles everywhere. So, kind of like right here. This is a 90-degree angle. Almost, you know, this has to be straight up. But that's the problem with these servos. You cannot have this servo horn straight up. Either it's leaning on one side or leaning on the other side. You know, the next tooth won't be in the center. So, got the servos there, and I had to make my own servo mounts. And what I'm using right here is a T-Max servo mount. You know, throttle servo mount. And over here is one that I made my own. You know, I grabbed another carbon fiber piece and I cut a hole, and then I'm using standoffs right there from the Manic. You know, grab the standoffs and that hold the top plate, and I used it to make a servo mount. So that's that. And I also had to figure out how to mount it correctly, because I got 1 point here and I got 1 point here, and I also had to make a leg right there. You see that? So I can make it more robust and stiff, because we're dealing with steering right here. You know what I mean? So didn't want any flex. You know what I mean? And the Tamiya radio box, everything fits here. Luckily, I have the Fly Sky NB Noble, the one without the antenna. It's in there. It's pretty small, and it's nice and it fits, you know. And that Tamiya box, yes, I did have to make room so the cables come out, right? And yeah, I don't use this thing right here. This is a shelf, just a shelf filter. These shocks are from China. China shocks, brother. I made them work. What I did was, these are not the original springs, and if you've seen these, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, they are not filled. I wish they were filled with nitrogen or nitrite, whatever they fill those shocks with. But we do have a heavy shock oil in there to support all that weight, because I believe these shocks are for a 10th scale, and I got them off of eBay, real cheap. Not cheap, but they're cheap. Cheaper than Integi. You know what I'm saying? Cheaper than those. And what else? Let me see. So the shocks ended up working, and I ended up liking and loving and admiring the way it turned out to be. There's a big hole right here because I wanted to figure out how to put a pipe through there, but with a lot of if you have too big of a header, it's not going to perform the same. You know, you're going to have a lot of interruption every transition from one port to the other. You know, what this exhaust silicon, whatever you call this, excuse my ignorance right now, I can't recall. That's my excuse. Can't recall. But this thing. Every time you use the silicone thing to connect something, it causes disruption. You know, with the frequency, with the wave, with the pulse, with the pulses, brother. You know what I'm saying? 17 millimeter hex. It has blind 2-piece axles. The female's axle part, it's made out of plastic, and the male is made out of aluminum. Well, it works. I mean, never broken one. Unless I make this go 100 miles an hour, it might break. But look, it's being held by really tiny C-clips, which could pop out, you know. But anywho, yeah, that's that. Also, at the end now, after I had everything together, I had to figure out how to put a chassis brace, also a torsion bar. It's not really a torsion bar, but it can make the brace. If I didn't have this, it could make the chassis flex a lot, you know, and that is just gonna cause and jeopardize, cause damage. It's gonna mess up my mesh, you know, and jeopardize my play, you know, my play. Other than that, you know, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. We do have aluminum servo horns and steering cranks. Yeah, I did tell you about the servo horn. The steering crank is aluminum. I did put a switch that I have it tied up over here with the zip tie because the holes were already there. Didn't want to make any more holes. I used to have the switch right here on the side. But then I was like, man, what if I hit a rock and this thing shuts it off? Like, whoops, run away. You know, I always make sure that my fail-safe is already active and intact, you know, and set. Because, man, just like these engines are sensitive, my love is very sensitive for these engines, you know, and very strong and sensitive. I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm trying to say is that I care about these way too much, you know, like I care about myself. And I think that's the way it should be. Okay. Alright, so this is my Manic, my 36 twin. And no, it's not for sale. And I don't think anybody would want to buy it. Even though it's fucking spectacular. Now I understand, you know, why we also like RTRs. Because, you know, it's just easier to work with. And you're more familiar. And if you want, like if you're having problems with, you know, working on it and you need the instructions, you're not gonna find this in the instructions. I didn't have any instructions to do this. You know, I just went step by step. You know, started with the servos, made sure I can locate the servos properly and have enough room for also the same fuel tank. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things went to this, and I'm just so glad and happy it turned out well. Well, not well, you know, because it's not an RTR, but it turned out to be how I envisioned it. Right, brother? And yes, I had to use trigger wheels, because if I use these wheels, they're not going to fit. They're too wide. And maybe later, if Afna guy decides to make some pipes for us, you know, because he be doing the work out there, making some mufflers. Shout out to you, Afna guy. Yeah, and these are the wheels that I use, Pro Lines, you know, or any other trigger wheels. It's the best you can do. And tomorrow, I already know how the top speed's 54. I'm just gonna give you guys a new example, and I'm just gonna place my speed run for 2026. You know, that's the way to be, because last year's, I don't think it should count. You know, it's all about this year. You know what I'm saying? So, a speed running demon, it's really not that torquey, but it gets going, brother. Believe me. And there is plenty of more room to gear up, but we're gonna leave that for another time, you know, just in case I really do want to set a world Guinness record. But for that, I have to have challengers. But I'm not here to challenge anybody, brother. I'm just here to let you know about me and myself and my channel and what we do here. what I do here. And what I do is just, I want to make them faster than they are. RTR rated speed, you know what I'm saying? Like, this one doesn't have a rated speed, but I did clock this thing like about 35, 36 miles an hour. I think that kind of makes sense why it's also called the 36 twin. It was mathematically and formulated to also do 36 miles an hour. You know, freaking awesome thing. This thing sounds amazing. It sounds more like a, I would call it a Ferrari. You know what I'm saying? High pitch, higher pitch. And this one, it just sounds like a diesel. You know what I'm saying? A diesel. And that's that, brother. I hope you like this video, and yes, the next video I will have this thing running, give you guys a little demonstration. And if I get too rowdy, if I get too excited, you know, I might get a mile an hour faster than the previous speed run. Alright, brother, that's it. Alright, brother, that's it for this video, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe for me. You know, it's only going to motivate me to do more. I'm not here to impress nobody. I'm just here so you can get to know me, you know. And that's it. Alright, y'all have a wonderful day, wonderful night. Wherever time zone you are located in, stay up. Well, don't stay up overnight. Just stay up during the day. Because the day is to stay active and productive. And once you accomplish something, you have the night to bring you into ease and relax and have some rest. Alright, brothers. But if you work like graveyard shifts like me, well, hey, what can you do, right, brother? Let's go.